Hi, I'm Paul from the Studio Rats. Last week I did a video where I compared a bunch of different guitars to see if they really sound all that different. And that video did quite well. So what I thought I'd do in today's video is to drag out a bunch of different drives that I've got to see if they actually sound that different. Now I'm using what I would call the main sort of food groups of drives. So we've got a KTR Klon, we've got a Dumble style pedal, and today we're going to be using the Vertex Ultra Phonix for this. We've got an Ibanez tube screamer, and we've got a Duellist. Now, I'm only using one side of the Duellist, which is drive B, which is a heavy hand side. And this side is basically a blues breaker style pedal. So we're not going to worry about the tube screamer side of it because that's going to be taken care of by this pedal. So with test number one, we're going to try all of these pedals at their lowest gain settings just to see how they sound as a mild drive sort of boost. So it sounds like this. Now that to me was quite interesting because the Klon and the Ultraphonix, the Vertex Ultraphonix, actually sounded quite similar. As soon as you went over to the Tube Screamer, the Tube Screamer's got this sort of mid-honk about it that I don't particularly like. And with a lot of Tube Screamer clones, they don't have that. Like the Duellist and like my Earthquake Devices Palisades, they don't have that sort of mid-range honk. Then moving over to the Duellist, loads of clarity. It's a fantastic pedal. The thing about this pedal is that it's got loads of dynamics. So if I turn it on, again, we're at its lowest setting. So there's me picking lightly. So this side of the pedal does everything from really dynamic drive, where you can really clean things up, to really quite high gain. This is on the stock setting. There's some switches inside it that you can switch to add distortion, etc. But this is on the stock setting, so none of that is added. And it's just a fantastic sounding pedal. Right, next let's turn the gain up to about halfway. And we'll compare the pedals to see how they sound at their mid-gain sort of setting. Now, without a doubt, for me, at the mid-gain setting, the Ultraphonix is my favourite sounding pedal. It's got that sort of chewy sound about it. It's really smooth, but it's got this extra bit of saturation that just feels really, really nice to play through. The other pedals all sound good. The Klon started to bring in some of that mid-range, which I like. And the Duellist, again, is the most sort of cutting of all the pedals. Now, the Duellist, I'm just keeping on the glass setting, so it's at its brightest setting, and I've got the tone up just a little bit as well. But the Duellist really cuts through the mix. In a minute, what I'm going to be doing is actually comparing all of these pedals inside a track, so you can see how they all sort of sound in a mix. But let's keep it on the mid-gain setting for the moment, and let's just play a little bit of lead just to see how they all sound. Again, with the last setting, the Ultra Phonix in that mid gain setting sounds absolutely fantastic. As I said, it's got that really nice sort of chewy overdrive that just feels great to play through, especially when you're playing sort of lead stuff. Let's turn all of the gains up to their full gain, and let's hear how they sound on their higher gain settings. Now, what I'm going to do is to play some sort of fast picking thing, because I want to hear how the pick attack reacts with all these different pedals. So let's start with the Klon. Now with the higher gain sort of settings, my preference is changing again. The Klon sounds to me has a lot more cut on it. The Ultra Phonix, I hate to use these sort of guitar type terms, but it sounds like an amp. There's something that feels much more amp-like about this pedal than the other three pedals. You haven't got as much cut as the other pedals, and you might have to adjust your amp a little bit, but to me, that is the most natural sounding overdrive of the bunch. The Ibanez Tube Screamer surprised me, actually. The Tube Screamer, I thought, sounded better with the higher gain setting, and the Duellist, again, just has that ultra sort of precise pick attack that you can really get out of it. Now, again, this is probably because I've got it on the glass setting, but you can really hear all the pick attack with it. And to be honest, they don't sound a million miles apart, and there is slight differences between these. And if I had to choose a favourite, again, it's going to be the Ultra Phonix or the Duellist. I think the Duellist has that little bit more cut, but as I said before, I really like the amp type tone that comes from the Ultra Phonix. Right, let's hear how all of these pedals react in a track. What I'm going to do is just to play a little lead part. I'm going to try and get it the same each time, and we're going to compare how each pedal sounds and if they sound any different. haven't adjusted any of the volumes on that mix. All the volumes are the same that's going into my DAW. And if you listen to the Tube Screamer is the pedal that doesn't really cut through the mix. If you look at the tone control on the Tube Screamer, it's actually turned up fairly high. It's actually at 3/4, and it still doesn't really cut through the mix. It sounds great, and it's got that sort of sound about it. I think if I was using a Strat on the neck position or in the bridge position, that's that sort of Tube Screamer type, Steve Ray Vaughan type sound, and it sounds great for that. But if I was going to go and buy a Tube Screamer style pedal, I wouldn't actually go and get an Ibanez Tube Screamer because it just doesn't cut through. If you go and get something like a Duellist, you've got all the different EQ controls on it, which is far more useful than anything that you can do with a Tube Screamer. And another one of my favourites is the Earthquaker Devices Palisades. It's just a fantastic sounding pedal, and it's far more versatile than a Tube Screamer. The Duellist, that just cuts through a mix, sounds absolutely fantastic at really any sort of gain level. But the Ultraphonics, I really like that sort of smooth tone that it does. Again, I still prefer this at a lower gain sort of setting. And the KTR, quite a versatile pedal. It's not my favourite compared to, say, like the Duellist or the Ultraphonics. But to me, I can really see why this is on so many people's pedal boards. Now, if I had to choose one of these pedals, it would be a hard toss-up between the Duellist and the Ultraphonics. I really like the Duellist because of how versatile it is, because you can take it from sort of really mild overdrive that cleans up really, really nicely, and then take it up to something that's quite high gain. The Ultraphonics was definitely my favourite sounding overdrive, but at that mid-gain setting, I think that's where it sits, and it sits really, really nicely. Anyway, I really hope you guys got something out of this video. If you did get something out of it, don't forget to like and subscribe, click on the bell button, and you'll be notified of any future video that comes out from the Studio Rats. I'm Paul, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.